Hello, my podcast family. We had to take a little break because I had to have a little surgery, but I'm back and we're ready to start rolling again. We're going to head out now with in full force. Today I have as my guest is Reverend Alfonso Williams. Alfonso Williams is an associate pastor at Cornerstone Community Baptist Church, where we both attend. After a long illness, Reverend Williams lost his wife. So we're having him today, and we're going to let him start off by letting us know how long it's been since your wife passed.
This past weekend, we celebrated 2 years of her passing.
Okay.
She passed in April of 24, so April the 4th. This past weekend was the second year of our anniversary.
Okay. Share with us a little bit about Bernice and her life so we can get to know her just a little better.
Her family comes out of Madison, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And her family has been a member of St. John Apostolic Holiness Church, where Bishop White was the pastor for many years, and I got to know her under that leadership. However, when he passed, then of course the pastor went down to his daughter, Pastor Wanda Kell. And of course, when we first got married, her pastor had told her, then you know when you get married now, you need to really follow the lead of your husband.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she came over to Cornerstone and united with Cornerstone, got actively involved with the Sunday school, on the usher board and that type of thing. But having come from that type of background, after a while she began to long for the type of worship and fellowship that she was accustomed to.
Right.
So what we did, I told her, I said, well, if that's the case, I'm fine with it, as long as we set a date and talk to Pastor Lawson and let him know how you feel. And she agreed to that, and she was able to go back and reunite with her church, but she would still come in fellowship, and then I would go in fellowship with St. John.
So she migrated from Madison, Georgia,
Yes.
to Atlanta. Did she do that when she was older, or did she do that with her family?
This is with her family when the family came here, and she went to school in the I think it's more the DeKalb County.
Oh, okay. So, and how long were the two of you married?
21 years.
21 years. Did you have any?
I didn't have any, but for our former marriage, she had one son, and he had one daughter.
Okay.
He has one daughter.
So you have okay. So your grandpa. And is anything else you'd like us to know about Bernie?
Well, it just so happened that we met on working atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
I was working for Neiman Marcus at the time, and Neiman Marcus is basically out of Dallas, Texas, and they were trying to set up a national credit department. And what they did some satellite offices, and one of the offices in this area was built at the store I was working at, and they gave us a chance to go in and learn credit. And when they got to a point where they were ready to nationalize, which is what their goal was, they closed that office. We got a chance to use our credit skills or either go back into Neiman Marcus and go back to work there. But the manager was able to refer us over to CBI, the Credit Bureau. Mm-hmm. And then I got a chance to get an interview and go over there. And when they accepted me, Bernice was already working there.
Oh, okay.
But because of our spiritual background, we connected, and we more was able to communicate and become friends and that type of thing.
So, now, grieving is it's a loss of a spouse. And grieving the loss of a spouse is in everybody's life. Are we gonna go through that? Losing a spouse or losing someone the changing experience you had to navigate intense emotions, loneliness and anger and sadness. Have you experienced any of those since?
Of course.
Which one has been more dramatic? The loneliness, anger, or the sadness?
Strangely enough, I think that anger was the least I experienced, but the sadness was the more challenging, because the sadness always brings out the heavy emotions and stuff that I think a lot of times as males, we really don't like dealing with stuff that bring out emotion.
Right.
And that has been a very big challenge. You know, the loneliness is different because I felt like I had gotten somebody that connected well with me, and I could really share looking forward to sharing the rest of my life. Now, mind you, when I met Bernice, she was open about the fact of some of her health challenges and that type of thing. And but I did not think that our relationship would not last longer than it did.
When do you find? I know when I find myself more lonely. When do you find yourself more lonely being a widower?
Usually, when I have to spend time at home.
Yeah, yeah. Mine is usually at night, in the evenings when I'm here by myself.
Yeah,
I can navigate the days all right. I can always find something to do, or I can go venture out. But in the evenings, it's the
it's like when that
hardest,
darkness come down, it makes a
you
difference.
know, because you have nowhere to go and nothing to do but sit here. So, anger. That I'll be honest with you, I was angry with two people. I was angry with my husband for leaving, and then I was angry. I was angry. I had anger for God for taking. I have since mellowed out from that anger, but that was what I faced, and probably you didn't because of your spiritual background.
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay. So you did too.
I experienced it as well because Bernice was a strong Christian woman, and we both believed that God could handle the situation. And we were trusting that God was going to turn this situation around. The time that I realized she was coming to terms with it, we had gone through so many diagnoses and doctor appointments and whatnot. One day in our bedroom, she looked me straight in the face and said, after we come back from hearing some diagnosis, she said, God got my life in his hand. And I think that took a lot of the emotional stress and pressure off of me for her to say that to me. And but then I got a chance to talk to eventually to her pastor. And as things began to decline, the pastor said to me, Alfonso, now you need to prepare to let her go. Because if God is not going to heal her, you don't want her to just keep staying here and
You don't want
suffering
the pain
and going
and
through
suffering.
like that. Now, I thought I could not believe somebody would say something like that to a person that's going through this. But at the same time, I was so thankful to her for being bold enough to let those words come to me because I really needed somebody to tell me that.
You needed the truth.
I needed to hear the truth because I was still hopeful that regardless of what we heard, I knew we've always been taught how man can say one thing and God can do another. We saw things happen in other people's lives and stuff like that. And even when I went to my own pastor, Pastor Lawson, and he said to me, yes, but God has the final say. And just to hear those kind of words at a time like that where it's beyond your control, you don't know how, you don't want to hear it, but when somebody's bold enough to say it, you find out later you needed to have that register in your mind. Because if God chooses to take her, you can handle it a lot better if you focus on the fact that yes, God can do things sometimes, but we see a lot of things that he chooses not to do what we desire him to do. And that was the thing that was something. I needed to hear those words, but I wouldn't have wanted to say, have no, if I would have had a choice, they wouldn't have said them to me if I'd known that's what they were going to say.
I've believed. I've kind of always believed that we are born a date of birth, and when we're born, we are also given a date of death. But when it came to someone I really care about, I didn't want that date to be that. I didn't want it to be that date. I wanted more years.
And that was
But
mine too.
yeah, but but I had to realize when God says it's time. And I was angry with him because he did not give me more time.
And I can agree with you there because that was the thing that made me angry with him at a point.
Yeah.
I had a feeling I would get over that, but I was just really disappointed. I just could not believe that he could have done it. And he chose not to do it in my case when I've known him to do it in other people's case. And yet, in my case, and it took me so long to get someone that was seemingly good for me. And that is all that was wrapped up in some of that anger.
Yeah.
I just was
Yeah.
really, first of all, disappointed that, God, you could have done it. And she believed just like the two of us believed. And how come you didn't come through for us and we both believe. We knew you were able to do it if you would have chosen to.
And I think that belief eventually allows your faith to kick in and realize that this was God's will. This is what He has to offer to all of us. And we have to eventually, understand what He did and why it was done. And it took me a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't do it within a few days, and sometimes I'm still tussling with it. Sometimes I'm still asking Him why. But then I have to realize He gave me 30 years with Him. That's more than a lot of people. So but we still want to be selfish.
I am thankful that I had because it took me a long time to get someone that I connected in my heart with, and I'd always been advised that as believers, we need to connect with somebody who is also a believer.
Yeah.
Now, if they're not a believer, it's not going to be a good situation. And for me to connect, first of all, that we were good friends, even as single people.
Yeah.
And when I first met her, her mind was glowing over somebody else, and I was thinking about somebody else. So we primarily connected on the spirituality side of it, that we were able to enjoy conversations about God and what we were doing at our churches and stuff along that line, and that was more our
You started
bond.
off as friends.
We were friends.
Yeah.
And her focus was somewhere else, my focus was somewhere else when we first met. Because I'm coming to the job where she is from another atmosphere, didn't know nothing about her.
Right.
And then we connected on that job, which meant we already had a background before we connected.
Yeah.
So, and it was just really amazing. And then I left the job before we ended up acknowledging that we were interested. But the friendship continued until over a period of time. Then we realized we were more attracted to each other than we were acknowledging.
When did you finally realize that God was putting the two of you together?
I think it's the fact that we had been still relating. We were good friends. Cornerstone had a banquet, and she would tease me because she would tell me, I can tell when you are either talking to somebody or something is going on because I don't hear from you. Mm-hmm. But then if that ain't happening, then all of a sudden I'll hear from you. And so Cornerstone was playing in one of their banquets. It was out at the we planned at one of the hotels out there near the airport. I forget the name of it right now. But they planned a banquet. And I wanted somebody to go with me. Mm-hmm. I felt kind of bad, but I called her and told her about the banquet and asked her if she was interested in going. Of course, she reminded me of my ways, but she agreed to go. And she enjoyed the banquet, and here it was. The people were like, oh, they figured, oh, he bring her to the banquet. Something's going on here. At that time, nothing that had really clicked, but it was beginning to, because I realized even more so then that she was really right. That seemed like when I'm got my mind focused somewhere else, I wouldn't contact her as much. But then when I'm in a bind, then this good friend, I'm gonna check with her. And then it was a Christian banquet. I figured I would have no problem with whether she would probably enjoy it or not. And true enough, she went, and the atmosphere was nice, and she enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And I began then to realize something else is going on here other than what we were saying. And I had left the job and everything, but we still communicated over the phone and stuff for the most part. And every now and then I would go out and visit her out in the Decatur at family's house. And the mother liked me. The mother liked me before daddy did.
Oh, really?
Daddy was examining me and screening me and stuff. And he wouldn't hardly say nothing to it. He'll sit over there on the couch or something and just look at me, and I'm trying to figure out, what is this man just looking at me, and he ain't hardly saying nothing. But her mother would be telling me if I called and maybe she couldn't answer the phone, and she'll be, well, tell me about what she was doing and stuff like that. But you need to do something. You need to call. She was trying to pull us together.
Push you together.
And really, unfortunately, her mother passed before we connected.
Oh.
And so that was another thing that was really interesting. But she was the one that was pulling for us
So you guys dated, you proposed.
Yes, and I had always said that if I got the right woman, I had seen some other people propose to their ladies in church. And I said, And with her being a Christian lady like she was, I said this would be the right situation. It won't bother because most women would probably want to go out to a dinner, something like that. And I said, now, I don't think it would bother her because of the type of lady she is that I would propose to her in church.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons I wanted to do that because I had kind of shown interest in some other ladies there at the congregation, and I wanted it to be kind of declared that I have made a definite selection.
That they weren't the one.
Well, that I had made a decision, and I wanted to make it public that I'm not trying to sneak and do something.
Uh-huh.
So that was one of the reasons I wanted to do it too. And Pastor Lawson had asked me to preach that Sunday. We had talked that week, had gone and got the engagement ring,
Mm-hmm.
and I told her, I said, but I don't want you putting it on till I really propose to you. But I didn't tell her when I was going to do it. I told her I was going to be preaching that Sunday, and I asked her if she would be able to be there. And she said yes, and she did come and everything. And I went by and talked to Reverend Lawson that Saturday evening because I didn't know how he would feel about me doing it, but I wanted to respect him as the pastor if it would be okay or not. And I called him up and talked, and he was kind of stunned. He said, Alfonso, are you sure she's going to say yes? I said, he said, because if you do it that way and she ain't quite ready, and that's going to be, he took me through them kind of change. But I'm saying to myself, she got that ring. She know about that ring.
She already
and
know.
She knew about the ring.
Yeah, so she knows.
We had always gone and picked the one she liked.
Yeah.
So she just knew. I had told her. She was excited about it.
Yeah.
But I said, I don't want you to wear it until I officially propose. But I wouldn't tell her when. I think she was thinking I probably was going to take her out to eat or something along that line. But I went on, and talked to him that Saturday. I had to preach that Sunday morning, and he was kind of nervous because he was like, man.
But you already knew.
I knew she wanted to wear that ring and put that ring on.
So she's going to say yes.
I get the feeling she's going to, I ain't got no problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't have no problem because we already, and then we don't went and looked at it and picked it together.
Mm-hmm.
So I got up and I did my preaching, and he knew what I was getting ready to do, came on down, and I told him that she was here and asked her to come on up and asked her to come on down, and people started, I think the ladies and all started thinking I was up to something. Had her come all the way down to the front, and then as I introduced her and told them, let them know it wasn't somebody I had just picked up just a few days ago, that I had known her for, I think at that time, probably about 17 to 18 years. They just didn't know her because she wasn't from Cornerstone.
Right.
And then some of the people at Cornerstone, they wanted to kind of advise me on who to get, type thing. I think they thought because I was singing so long, they thought they had to coach me into it. And but I called her up, introduced her, let them know that I had been involved, knowing her for a certain number of years and everything, and said all of that, and then eventually got down on my knees and they.
You shocked the whole church.
I shocked the church because I think the way I operated, they didn't think I knew how to handle it. But I had already felt that.
You already knew. You'd been practicing.
I had felt like that I had really proposed a couple of ladies before and it didn't work out.
Okay.
And but in this case, I felt pretty sure, and that's what Reverend Lawson was concerned about. He didn't want me to get up there and end up getting embarrassed. And but I felt pretty sure because of the way things had been built. I had even gone and talked to her father, let him know I was interested in marrying her, that he had given me his may go except for the sake. I don't believe in giving my daughters away. But my stepson had already said he wanted to give his mom away, but I didn't want to give him that option unless I had a problem with her father. And when he told me, I said, okay, this will work out just fine, because her son wanted to give away anyway. He said, I just don't believe in giving my daughters away.
Yeah. But he gave you his blessing.
He gave me his blessings, and he said, if you get to a point where you just can't deal with her no more,
send her home.
That's exactly basically the words he said. Send her back home or bring her right back here home where you got her from.
Yeah.
But he just was not going to be giving her away because he didn't believe in giving his daughters away.
Right.
But it worked out just fine because her son wanted to give her away anyway.
Well, and of course, she said yes.
And she said yes. And
That's
the people
beautiful.
just about had
that
a
is
fit,
so
but
beautiful.
I did it just the way I wanted to do it, and
I love it.
It was really And it was just really funny because I'm like, the people looked like they thought, you taking so long, you don't know what to do. You don't know how to handle yourself. And then for me to shock them like that at my
Oh.
own church and congregation, it was just really nice.
And you relieve Pastor Lawson's feeling better.
Right.
That's wonderful. I love it. That's a great story. That is a great story. Thank you for sharing that with us. Tell me a fun memory you have up in East.
We at different times would plan different things. And I guess one of the things that really gets me is when she would hear her friends go on a cruise and come back from a cruise. She'd get excited about a cruise, but she couldn't swim. And her fear was, I just don't see myself going out there in all that water, and I don't know how to swim. But when they come back talking about it, then she get up excited again. So at different times, we were playing different things. Like for our 5th anniversary, we decided to go back to our honeymoon suite. Because she wanted to be around water, but she wasn't that keen about going out there in it. So we went to Myrtle Beach for our honeymoon. And so for our 5th anniversary, we went back to our honeymoon spot. Her thing was just to go there. I don't want to be on the first level, because if that water come rushing in here, I don't want to be down there where it is. I want to be up on the balcony where I can look out there. And she got up there, and she was excited at night when it started coming in, and all them white tires would be coming. She loved that. And she could sit out there for hours at night when them tires are coming in and stuff. So coming up to our 10th anniversary, she finally made up her mind, we are planning a cruise. Because I hadn't been on one, she hadn't been on one. I heard people talk about them and all this kind of stuff. I said, but that would be something, that's our 10th anniversary, we'll go on a cruise. We found out that we could get a cruise plan and everything. She was the one hooked up with it. She was the one that did the communication, because she was there out the house a lot of times, and she would do the communication with him. Our anniversary is in September. So every time they start talking about turbulence and problems out there in that water, she'd be like, now wait a minute. And she'll be the one to get on the phone. As long as I wasn't the one she was telling to get on that phone and keep calling that man every time something happened and we hear the news about what's going on, then I was fine. As long as she would be the one willing to go and keep calling and telling it, talking to the man, trying to figure out, now what we gonna do? I hear that this is going on out there. What we gonna do? And he basically said, we got it handled. We have this from time to time. If it's so severe, we ain't gonna make no big decision unless we get to a very severe situation, and then we'll probably go another route than the route we have scheduled. But until then, we are going according to the plans that we have. We went all the way up to the time, and she would be calling. She was nervous to going down to the dock to get on the ship. We got on the ship. She enjoyed being on the ship. She didn't care anything about getting out going, but as long as we had a ocean view room where she can get up in the daytime when she felt like it and look out and see the water, see some of that live animal jumping up and out of it, she was fine with that. She didn't care anything about getting on, but she enjoyed a lot of things on it. And after we had gone and been out there and everything, we didn't feel no turbulence or anything until one night we was downstairs eating dinner. And then all of a sudden we felt a little funny stuff. And she looking kind of funny, but she didn't want to say nothing. And so we were like, okay, all right, something is going on up there. But as long as the captain didn't say anything about go to the room and lock down or nothing like that, it was okay. We was able to finish enjoying our meal. But she enjoyed any and all the stuff, the night activities. One night we even decided we were going to be romantic. We're going to sit out and eat a meal where we could watch the sun go down. And we did that one night. We was on there, but we enjoyed it. The thing that was really triggering was when we got back to the dock. Now, she done went through all this fear and all this anxiety. Not even just saying that she didn't care nothing about getting off that ship and everything. She was content with staying on there. We get back to the dock and her thing was, when we going again? And when she said that, I knew we had her.
You had her.
And then we got a chance to go in on others after that.
Oh, that's great.
But that was a real highlight. As scared as she was because of that water.
She got over the fear.
But she got over the fear by acting. And I tell people now, if you have never been, you need to go because of what we went through.
I don't swim, but I love water. And I'm like her. I love to watch the waves. I love to. If I'm going to be where water is, I've got to have a room view. And I did take a cruise, but I was nervous. I always wanted to know where the life jacket
But that
was.
was a life changing experience. But we had to go at least one time for her to. And I'm glad we did that during the time of our marriage because we talked about it. And every time one of her friends would come back talking about it, she'd get up in there and excited about it. But it calms down real quick when she think about all that water she got to deal
Yeah,
with. Not thinking about the fact that if people going out there and coming back,
it's all right. Yeah,
it's got to
yeah,
be okay because
yeah,
people enjoy it too much and they go all
yeah,
the time. But that was a fear there that was very challenging.
yeah.
Even though
It, you
she
know,
wanted it in her heart to experience it, but that fear
yeah.
was a problem.
And like her, once you do it, you just keep doing it. I've been
She
on
was
several since
after
my
she
first
went
one.
that
Yeah,
time and got out there and came back. I don't know what it would have been like if we would have had a lot of problems out there, like some people do every now and then. And what was really funny, we get back because we went into the Bahamas, and we get back, and it was announced that a couple was planning their wedding. I think it was in the Bahamas the next weekend. And a joking hurricane went over in there, the same area where we done went and spent our time, but we don't got back home safe and sound.
yep,
With all the fear she had, and the next weekend they could not even do their wedding because
yeah, look her.
of a hurricane. And we went over there and had no problem. During September when we know it's hurricane season, but we wanted to go for our wedding anniversary. So going another time wasn't gonna work for us.
Right.
It was more motivating for her to give up her fear
Yeah.
to do it as a celebration of one of our anniversary.
Now, when she passed, and it just seems like you guys had a great, great, fantastic life together, and it's very amazing how you shared your religion separately, but also together. So when she passed, did you find it necessary to seek professional help, or were you able to navigate your grief
I
in
think
other ways?
I think with me being a part of the Christian family and having brothers and sisters that I had been around uh, that had experienced it, just like I told one of our church members, Miss Dolly Daniels, I thought when I used to visit her when she was going through with her husband that I understood. That's when I'm very sensitive about people being callous about just what they say to people
Right,
who are going
right,
through
right,
that.
right.
Because I thought I understood. But until I went through my own experience, I told her, I said, now we'll be able to talk better about life and experience. I said, because now I've gone through it.
Yeah.
I thought I understood when I used to go and visit and try to be of comfort in this type of thing and try to say some words. I didn't have no experience of that.
But you never know until you walk in those shoes.
But I walked in those shoes. Now, with anybody that's going through it now, I can really address it a lot different.
I definitely understand that. Yes.
Yeah.
And
so,
you're more sensitive
right.
to
About being careless about just saying empty words.
and what they're going through. I still at least once a week reach out to Annette because I understand. Everybody's around you when you're going through this in the beginning, but you still need somebody reaching out to you weeks and months later.
Over the long haul.
Yeah, because it don't end in 2 or 3 weeks.
And it don't end just because you've had the homegoing celebration. That can be the hardest time. Because during the week from the time of death, and you got to do all this preparation and contact with the people and talking with people involved, you don't relax enough to feel it. You feel it and know it, but you ain't relaxed enough because you got so much business stuff to take care of. But it's just something cold about that repast and finishing that repast and got to go home, and all of a sudden you start realizing you got to deal with this newness of lifestyle. And that gets to be pretty challenging.
Yeah.
And if you don't have, I can see why some people might have to deal with therapy. Because if you don't have some friends that is sensitive to you during that time, and I had some people that were pretty good spiritual brothers and sisters that was holding my hand, so to speak. I think it was 1 week after she passed. I hadn't had my good cry grieving because I just hadn't gotten to that level of dealing with it. It looked like so much on the inside of me. Even after I went through the funeral, there was a few little shared in tears, but I hadn't really busted out and let it come out. And here it was, I was talking maybe about the week after the funeral. It was in the month of April. And And a buddy of mine was talking to me, and he got to talking about he was smiling, and we men have a tendency to tease each other. If a man is smiling, he got a woman that's like, that woman did something nice to you. You smiling too much. What's wrong with you? And we were talking on the phone, but he had this smile in his voice, and he said, "Yo, this is my 49th wedding anniversary," and of course, we get into talking about that, so that was a trigger. And after a while, it started me getting emotional, and I wanted to get off the phone. And he was like, "No, you don't need to get off the phone. This is something you need to deal with." I hadn't had nobody too much to do that to me. They normally would tell me, "Go ahead, I understand." I did not realize that that kind of response made me feel like somebody was going to hold me and help me to get through this bad spot. And he said, "Now, and before I get off the phone, I want to have a word of prayer with you too." Well, that was good and bad, because the more he prayed, like the more emotional I was getting. And then when I got off the phone, it was one of them days I was at home by myself, and I had never cried and cried and cried until I felt like I was emptying a lot of that pain and emotion out of me. And since I was home by myself, I just went on and just cried like I wanted, and just went all through the house and just did my thing crying. And I felt so much better from the time that she had passed until then. But it also felt good for somebody to not let you run, because that's what I basically was doing. When I would feel the emotion come on, I would run. I just wanted to get away from it. I didn't want to address it. And I would, but the most of the people would say, "Oh, I understand. Okay, go ahead. I understand." And I thought that was good until somebody held me in place and, "No, you need to address this, and I'm going to be right here to address it with you." And but by that happening, I felt much better, and I cried, and the pain was much better. I felt more, because I didn't realize how much weight I was carrying that morning before we talked, until after I had that good
But
break.
I think women are a little different than men. I think men tend to hold their emotions in.
And I can attest to that.
With
You
me,
don't feel comfortable addressing that.
no,
You feel
because you're
like
not
you're
supposed to do
stronger.
that. You're supposed to be
Well, you
strong.
feel like you're stronger and you're handling it until something like that breaks it out, and you
Yeah.
feel much better, and your head seems to feel clearer and better. Your inside seem to be better for a minute until it builds back up again.
Yeah.
But that was one, I never forget that moment, because it was like one of the best experience I could have had, and was by somebody who would not let me run. That's what I call it, running. You feel it coming on, and all of a sudden you just want to get lost. And most people would tell you, "I understand."
Now, what was the hardest part of losing?
I think just like we've talked before, just the presence and the company. I never forget one day, it only happened one time. I came home, and because I was so used to her presence and her spirit being in the atmosphere, I could not believe it. It felt like her spirit was in there. Her presence seemed like it was there. I felt just as content inside of me as if her presence was there. And I'm like, wait a minute. I know Bernice is gone, and I know she ain't here, but it feels like the warmth of the atmosphere when she's here, it was there.
Well, what makes you think?
I'm not convinced she wasn't. I ain't even arguing that point.
Yeah.
But I knew how I felt, and that's the only
She
time I
was.
felt it.
And that means she was.
And
She was
I've been
there.
told that can happen.
Yes.
And it could have happened because I felt the way I would feel when I would walk in that house and she was there physically and everything. It was like her presence was in that house. I didn't even feel bad, like guilt, or I didn't feel, not guilt, but grief.
Did you smile?
Yeah, made me feel like she was there.
Yeah.
I just didn't see her.
It was comforting here. I
It
have not been able to. I have wanted to experience that, but I haven't had it yet.
I had that one time, and I am glad I did, because I was able to experience it and knowing she was gone.
Because sometimes, most of the times, when I leave the house in my car and I come back, pull in the garage, close the garage door, and I did it this morning because I had to run out, and I'll just sit in my car for a while because I don't want to go in the house because he's not there, and I may sit out there 20, 30 minutes. And finally, I have to tell myself, you got to go in. Can't sit in this car all night. You got to go. So, yeah, I understand.
That was another painful time I had, because we both were Christians and believing people. She had a church, I had mine, and she loved her church, and I loved mine. I went to Cornerstone one Sunday, and it was another one of my challenging times. Reverend Lawson said something in the sermon that got me triggered. And when I got out of that service that day, it was one of my hardest times going home knowing she wasn't going to be there. And I practically all the way to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And it was another one of my days that I had a good crying spell because nobody was there but me. And I could cry like I need to cry. I just missed knowing that we both were church people. It was the realization of this is one of them times that we will not share afternoon after church Sunday.
Yeah.
Now that happened to me one time so far. But he had said something triggered that was said in the sermon.
Yeah.
It got me thinking. And it affected me that afternoon. But it helped me to bring out. But I must admit, these moments is what helped me to heal.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to help me to heal. And then, like you say, being a male, and for the teaching we get about emotions and managing emotions, you don't realize sometimes emotions really help you to be better.
Yeah.
But after I was able to, I haven't even had that. I thought I was going to have it after that it was going to be a regular thing because we were church people. But it hadn't happened. But that particular Sunday, it happened. And it was a hard Sunday for me to come home and have to deal with the realization that we wouldn't be coming home sharing after church experience.
And I think sometimes, not all the times, but I think sometimes that's why we heal faster than you do, because we'll let it out.
But
we
we've been
told,
told,
we can be at the table, we can
we've
be
been
on
trained
the toilet,
to respect that in a woman,
we're gonna be,
and try to be there for you all when you're going
we're
through
gonna,
it, but
we're gonna
not
let it
us
out.
doing it.
Yeah. So that now I know you just finished the second anniversary of Bernie's passing. How did that affect you? And I know that was one of the reasons you wanted to take this time to come on the podcast because of the anniversary. But how did it affect you?
Believe it or not, a good friend of mine got together for lunch. We had the children's Christmas program. That was a great help for me. I am so glad that this year that they had that production on Saturday morning, and I was off. I didn't know.
You mean
that
Easter?
The Easter production that they did Saturday morning. I did not know it was going to be as, what's the word I want to use, therapeutic for me as it was. But just the fact that they had it early and motivated me to get up. It was the day of her anniversary. And it motivated me to get up and get out to something, and something that positive. And then for the children to have done it so well, because they did real well in their parts and everything.
Yes.
It was very well done. And then the message of it was very strengthening for me. And I went through that, and then that afternoon went out to lunch and everything, and that went well. But all that helped to strengthen me to get through the weekend.
You weren't by yourself.
I wasn't by myself, and I had called myself gonna be slick. I had called some friends because I was determined. I guess for lack of a better word, I was kind of scared of spending Sunday afternoon after church by myself because I felt like I was gonna go through one of them emotional downers, and I was trying to connect with somebody because I know that was one of Bernice's big thing was to have a nice Easter dinner, and I didn't want to go out to eat by myself. I didn't want to go home by myself. If anybody was having a meal and didn't mind me coming, I just didn't want to have to spend it by myself. So I had called some friends, and just so happened one guy had to go out of town because they had death in the family. And the other one said, well, I'll let you know, but I got to talk to my wife first. He didn't let me know at first whether they were already planning something or what they were doing. And I was getting a little antsy because he didn't get back with me right away to let me know. So I'm thinking I'm still going to have to come up with something. And I might have to do something by myself. And but he called me maybe about Thursday, Friday, and said everything will be fine, and then told me what they would like for me to bring to support the meal and that type of thing. That took a little of that pressure off of me. And once again, I had to travel because they live in Griffin. But it gave me a chance to get out and to do something like that as opposed to heading back home and to be home by myself. Right. Even if I decide to go out to eat somewhere, I still have to end up that whole afternoon by myself, and I was dreading that. and we were able to get together. All of us was church people, so therefore we had good, wholesome conversation. They had good and plentiful, delicious food and everything, and I did not realize how much that was lifting me from being down the weekend.
Yeah.
And it was one of the best things that could have happened to me.
Great. I'm so glad. I'm so glad it worked out for you.
And then knowing I was coming for this week, I felt like victory.
Those anniversaries are tough.
Yeah.
It is hard losing your spouse, and we never feel the grief and sorrow of the loss. We never get over it. Sometimes we may feel guilty for the one who's still alive. Have you had this feeling, and if so, how did you deal with it? When I guess what I'm asking is, when Bernice passed, did you feel guilty that it was her and not you?
Not really. Now that's one I didn't really not that I remember. And that's because when I first met her, now if she had not told me health challenges that she was faced with, because sometimes when you get to, get involved with a person, they may not tell you all that kind of stuff. And but since she was open and I knew she was going through stuff, and I was able to still accept and be prepared, because my family has a history of diabetes. I know what some of my family have gone through dealing with it. I've known education and stuff that we've gotten about it.
Right.
And when I was involved with her, we had to go through training. They wanted us to take little seminars and stuff like that to help manage the diabetes and stuff like that. So we was working along with all of this all along. And then with me going through a risk in 2009 with finding a pituitary gland tumor, and that was a risk then. I hadn't been married to her that long. And I said to God, I ain't even been married that long. And these doctors telling me I could go into this and not come out. I couldn't believe it. But then I got this scripture, for me to live is Christ, but to die is gain. That gave me peace. I ain't got no control over it. If God take me first and he let me go first and this type of thing, then it wasn't going to be no big deal. But it was a challenging thing. But now that part I didn't really deal with as much, because now if I had not known and had been dealing with it and working with it, as a matter of fact, the biggest challenge we thought we were going to have was diabetes. And we went through our whole relationship dealing with diabetes, and at the tail end, we come up to have to be faced with cancer. At the tail end, when we had gotten diabetes under control. And then it ended up going over into her liver. And by going in there, they say liver cancer is very difficult to really battle. They battled it as much as they could and told us about the last treatment that they knew of that was safe for her to have and all of that. But that was what ended up getting us at the tail end, after we don't got control of what we thought was our lifelong challenge.
I think we hit on this already, but I'm going to revisit. And I know you're a man of God, but you're also human. Did you get angry with Bernice for leaving?
Not really. Like I said, part of the thing that gave me relief is when she said to me, my life is in God's hand. And I felt good knowing she had come to terms with that herself.
Okay.
Not me trying to tell her, now you need to do this. You need to think about, God is in control, and me trying to counsel her as to how to come to deal with what she's dealing with. I mean, somehow she was motivated to stand there and tell me, and I'm looking dead in her eyes, and she telling me this. And
that's the spiritual side of her.
And it helped me to gain some composure about it. So between her saying that, her pastor saying what she said to me, and me talking to Reverend Lawson, and Reverend Lawson said what he said to me, they gave me the words I needed to hear, not just what I wanted to hear, not trying to be too nice. Telling me truth that I needed to face, type thing.
Yeah, what the outcome would be, so you can be prepared.
So I could be a bit more prepared. It hurt like the devil, because I stayed right there. I had been taught that as a married man, you need to be there.
Yeah.
And I was there until they told us her heart had stopped.
Well, Robert, I still trying to figure out if I did the right thing, because I never told him. I think before he passed, I think he started to realize it because his body was. Because we were told in November that he was, and not from cancer, well, not necessarily from, but because they had did a procedure on his back. They lanced a ball that was on his back, and they didn't close it up. They couldn't close it up. They had to leave it open and just keep it packed. And once that was done, we were told a few days later that because of the wound on his back, he could never get his cancer. And because he couldn't get his cancer treatments, he was going to die. So I knew this, and he died but I never told him. I never wanted him to worry about his faith and what was. And so I still struggle. I still struggle with that if I did the right thing. But it's over now, and that's what I did, and I have to accept it.
Yeah, and then you have to forgive yourself for it, and that gives you relief. It was like in January, I think it was that year, that they told us they had done the last treatment that they knew of that they could do. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, her cancer doctor was thinking of one of the hospitals was doing some trials, and maybe she could go in one of those trials. But then when he checked with the hospital to see, they asked about her physical condition and how strong her body was. And by that time, her body was getting weaker. And they said, well, the trial, her body needs to be pretty strong to be able to endure it and to go through it. And if you feel as though her body is not really strong at this point, we don't advise her trying to go through that.
Right.
But they had gone through something they called, because they said that certain treatments that they could do for other organs in the body they couldn't do with the liver. They couldn't do radiation, the regular radiation, because it would go in and just burn the liver up. And then that was something else they told us that they wouldn't be able to do. But then one of the hospitals had something they call a Y90. And they said that was kind of a radiation they could do on the liver. But they tried it, and it appeared at first that it was going to handle it. And what those cells would do is just move, until they said that was one of the last treatments that they could do. Right. And they pretty much was letting us know they'd done all they could do. And I know she had, at one point, her thing was she had several people in the family who had gone on dialysis. They had told us during the course of our teaching about handling the diabetes that it could affect those kidneys to that extent at some point. And that was one thing she dreaded. She said, I really don't want to go on dialysis. Mm-hmm. She dealt with her family members going through it, and she just did not want to go through that. And so I was hoping we wouldn't have to deal with it. Right. But that was one of the last things at the end, because at one point they were wanting me to diagnose, to authorize them to put her in hospice. And they didn't give me no strong justification for them doing it. And so I wouldn't agree with it. And I was at work, and they were trying to get me the week that she passed, that Wednesday. And they couldn't get me, so they got my stepson. And he called me and said, the hospital, the facility, the rehab facility is trying to get you. And I called them, they done already decided they're going to send her to hospice. I said, send her to hospice? They said, you don't want her to go to hospice? I said, what are you sending her to hospice for? I was just up there earlier. I went up there for lunch. And she ate and everything what I had for her. But before I could get off from work, they telling me they ready to send her to hospice. And they were like, okay, well, if you don't want her to go to hospice, then we'll send her to the hospital. I said, well, because I want to know what's going on with her. And so by the time I got there, they done hooked up to all this equipment and everything. And then the doctor comes in and say, because of they were telling me about different organs are beginning to go down.
Shut down.
And kidneys were beginning to do the same thing. And because they were beginning to do that, poison was building up in her system. That right. The next thing they recommend is that they put her on dialysis. I dreaded doing that, because I know that's something that she dreaded doing. But if that was something to help to see if that would work to get that poison out of her system, then let's try it. So they put her on that overnight, and came back the next morning and told me it's not working. It's not getting it out like we thought it would, so we're going to have to take her back off. And I went along with that, and he said, now you know what that means, don't you? Then he went on to tell me, he said, now if we take her back off, that means we are releasing her to let her go. That was another time I didn't want to hear that, but I had to accept it. They had done something else that at least they tried. Now that's what I would have felt bad about if I hadn't at least allowed them to try, because I've been wondering in my mind, could have it had helped.
That make difference.
But even though it was against something that she really dreaded, I felt like it was
It was
a
one of
time
those
to
steps to
at
see if we
least
could get
try
her through
and
this.
see if we can get her through this downward slump.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. So he came and he let me know. He said, because of this, we basically saying that we're releasing her to let her go. And so I kind of getting that in my head. And then they come in there and they asking us about whether or not we wanted to be there to take this equipment off. And I was going through all kind of changes about that, because one minute I'm thinking I want to do it. Next minute I don't want to do that. And then next minute they be like, well, do you all want to stay here and see us take it off? I'm saying, no, I don't want to see it. Then I want to see it, because I don't know how she's going to respond when they take it off at the end. And if she responds any kind of way, I would like to be there to see it. And my stepson was out of town because he's a truck driver. And that Thursday, he wasn't sure what time he was going to get back in, but his daughter said he'd be in by 10 o'clock. Then the doctor said, well, her heart is beating so fast, and it's just like she's been out somewhere running or jogging or something. And I'm not sure if he's coming in at 10 o'clock, if she's going to be here when he gets here. My wife was still here. He come walking in that door. She hadn't gone nowhere. But they had decided to put on that dialysis. But so the next morning, he was here when they gave us the word about, they gave it to me. But that's when they said that they had done that and it didn't work. But he got here. So, different one was saying, well, she seemed like she was waiting, trying her best to wait.
Wait on him.
Him to get in.
Yeah.
But he did come in, and before they pronounced her as being gone.
All that you have gone through, Bernice, waiting for her for 49 years and finally meeting the love of your life, do you think you'd be happy?
Happy in terms of another relationship?
Yeah. Do you think you'd be able to?
I think the possibility is still there if God is involved in it, because that's what happened with us. Come to find out she had been doing some praying just before we connected. That was in keeping with God putting us together. And for me to be at Neiman, having that opportunity that was very strange to learn credit, when they decided to build that credit office there in our store. Could have built it in another store. Then when they closed, I had the opportunity of relocating to Texas. They gave us a choice. If we wanted to, they would provide an opportunity for us, because that's where they wanted to build a national credit office. They were building this was a satellite moving in the direction of the national. And the satellite was to handle so many stores on the East Coast, when we was the East Coast region. And once they got settled and moved toward Dallas, then they gave us a chance to go there. And I was concerned because my father, my family was getting older, and I'm right here in Georgia. I can easily run home. So I checked with them, and they were like, you got your life to live. If you want to do it, go ahead. Then I decided, nah, it's too close where I can easily go home if something happened to them. And then that's when I started thinking, and when the manager said, well, we can I can check with, I know people at the credit bureau, and I can go over and recommend you all if y'all want to continue with your credit skills. I said, well, I'm just getting used to these skills, and they finna close the office, then we go back to doing something else. I'd rather just go on and move forward with the skills I've gained. And she said, well, anybody that's interested, I'll go over and see if I can get you all an appointment with the manager of the credit bureau. And he interviewed some of us, and I was one of the people he selected. And that's how I got over there and met her. She was already there.
So you think that it's a possibility that you may consider remarriage?
I'm open to the idea, because I value having a companion in this life. It is one of the most beautiful things you can have, is to have somebody in this life. God didn't make no mistake when he said Adam didn't need to be alone. That was supposed to be like a little joke.
Statistics says that men are more likely, widows are more likely to remarry than women. What do you think?
I wouldn't be surprised, because I really like the idea of companionship and having somebody to share life with. I just believe that as believers, we don't need to just connect with people who are not believers. I feel like you need to get somebody else who's a believer, and that might narrow your scope, because there's a whole lot of people out here. But if you connect with... What?
I am on the other end of the spectrum.
Oh, excuse me. That's all right.
I mean, I'm not
I just like the
I'm one of
oneness of spirit in the relationship.
I'm one of those people. I will not say never. I won't say that because I don't know what God has for me. Because whatever He has for me is for me. So I don't know what my future lies or where
So
it
you're
lies.
thinking about never
But
getting married again now.
yeah, but my thinking right now, I don't want to dip my foot back in the dating game. This time, I want the marriage game. I don't want to. I don't want to take care of anybody. I don't want anybody to have me responsible. I don't even want a dog.
Hmm. A lot of them, that's what a lot of women do. They go to the dogs.
When
They
I
get them
leave
a
out of
pet.
this house, I don't have to worry about who I got to come back to take care of. I don't want to worry about, well, no, I got to go home because I got a dog at home and I need to go home and feed him. I don't want that. But I said, I will say again, God may be sitting here laughing at me
And
while
you
I
know what?
say
Because
this.
he already might have somebody that he know is going to change your thinking because of the type of person they might be.
I mean, he may do. He may be. I'm not telling you what God has for you, me. I'm telling you what I have for me.
Because I really, now you talk about some things you regret in life. After getting into the relationship like I did, I would have preferred having it earlier to
See,
have the right type of
see,
situation.
I was married a lot earlier than you were.
Yeah. But like I said,
I've
that
been
was
taking,
someone
I've been
back in
taking
my
care of people.
20s.
I've been taking care of a man since I was 16. I married when I was 16. I've
But
been taking care of a man all my life.
I like the idea, and I learned by being married. That's when I'm thankful for God for the years that He did give me. That's
Mm-hmm.
something I can really. I may have been mad at Him for taking her, but I am grateful for the experience because I had gone all those years
Mm-hmm.
not being in that type of relation and being a believing man. It's just not freedom of guilt for you to be too close to a lady and you know you ain't married to her.
Mm-hmm.
It troubles me in my spirit. Now other men might be able to do it, but it troubles me. And
But
I feel I am so grateful that even though it was briefing for that's another thing I could almost be bad at God is. Why dangle something like this like it's a carrot
mm-hmm.
in front of you and then take it away?
Mm-hmm.
But it was just the idea of having that type of relationship and being able to feel free, to feel like you can be close, intimately relating to a female without the guilt of knowing that you know you violating God's will. Now, that was a piece that was very rewarding for me. Is to be able to be in that type of atmosphere. I've done it legal. It is declared before people. It ain't something I got to be running around here sneaking to do and all that.
I have done it legal. I have, by God's standards, I have done it illegal. I've done it legal again. Now, I can admit it when it comes to having to wash my car, put gas in my car, take out the trash, go buy the groceries. That part I kind of miss because I never had to do any of that. Didn't have to pay the
You
bills.
sound
Didn't
like
have
my
to
mother.
didn't have to do any of that. But
When my mother told me
I'll be all right.
when my mother told me she missed that about my daddy, that made me feel like it did something for me as a man.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that. It
But she
doesn't
was a
mean
strong woman
it,
now.
it
That's
doesn't
the
mean
thing.
it doesn't mean that I don't miss him. I'm saying those are the things that I have to do now because he's not in my life.
That's what I'm saying. That's the way she put it. We were talking and she just out and said that. And see, my mother was the type that's so strong-willed and strong-minded. I did not think I would hear her say that. But after he was gone for a while and we were talking and she kind of stopped in the conversation and said, I miss your daddy. And then listed things like that she missed. Some things she didn't even have to think about, didn't have to worry about because he took care of it. And I'm like, I wish Dad was here to hear this. That you really valued that. I didn't say that to her, but that's something kind of going through my mind
Well,
because
yeah,
I'm thinking
when you don't have somebody in your life to take care of you like
it
that.
was really amazing because my mother was such a strong-willed
Yeah.
and a strong, determined woman. I never would have thought that would have meant that much to her. That she would just went around. I felt I was more concerned about him leaving her. I mean, her leaving him.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy would have fell apart. Daddy gained so much strength from my mother until it would have been very difficult for him trying to even care about living if my mother. That's the way I feel.
Well, I try to prepare Robert in my own way to be able to sustain his life when I'm gone because I always thought I would go first. So I always try to prepare him. This
It's
is where
amazing
this
how it can
is.
happen sometimes.
Yeah, this is where this is. This is where this is. This is what you have to do. You got to be strong. I mean, we talked about all stuff. Of me going first and never thinking that he was. Uh, One question I'd like to ask you now. I understand that supposedly the second year of loss is the worst year. Did you feel that? Did you feel like the second year was worse than the
It's
first?
hard for me to say because this stuff is just like this grieving. It's just like you got to go through it to be able to know. I feel a lot more stable emotionally this year than I did the first year. The first year, like talking about this stuff, the first year, I'd be steadily crying, and so far, I felt tears coming up, but they ain't really
So
come
the
forward.
second year has not been traumatic to
It
you at
has not
first.
been as hard as, because even the holidays haven't been, I thought they were going to be worse than they were, just like me getting through Easter. Coming up to Easter was looking like it was going to be kind of difficult. And God I can almost see, even like Reverend Lawson preached something about how the ladies were worrying about how they were going to get the stone rolled away. And when they get there, the stone already taken away. God had taken care of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way my weekend went compared to what I anticipated being
It was amazing.
was amazing because it went so much better and I got through it without the heavy weight of grief like I kind of anticipated. You just can't plan this stuff. You got to get through it. And God had stuff in place that helped me to get through this weekend much better than I thought I was going to be. That's when I was kind of running to find something to do because I was nervous that I was going to be a basket case going through this week, and he had stuff in place that
Already
worked
taken
out
care
much
of.
much better than what, uh, and in a way where I didn't go through it like I thought I would.
Now, if there was one thing that you could tell Bernice, or you wish you had said to her or done before she left, what would it?
That's interesting because I have no thing on top of the list at this point
Well, that means you did. That means you said everything that you needed
because
to say before.
I ran and did well when I accepted the fact that I was not going to get a lot of help uh, to be there for her. And I made up my mind that whatever needed to be done, I would do the best I could myself. Then that's the way I worked it. And I think that might be the reason why I don't have nothing at the top of my list right now.
Because you did everything.
I made all kind of sacrifices I had to make because Bernice was a very good woman and a good-hearted woman. She had done so much for nieces and nephews in her family. She had done so much. That was one of the children that was there for her parents when they were going through and all this kind of stuff. She had given a lot of herself, and she loved her son and her granddaughter. She sacrificed almost anything for them. So she was a very giving person. And I guess that would be one of the things that would hurt me. And I don't know how deeply she felt about it because she got to a point where she couldn't talk to us toward the end. Is to be hurt that when she needed people the most, people were
Put that there for her.
not there for her. And
Isn't that amazing
even
how that works?
and one of the nieces that she used to call her name, and I kept wondering why you keep mentioning her. But this niece used to call up when she wanted to fix. Bernice used to be good about fixing Thanksgiving dressing. They loved her the way she would season it and fix it. And one of the nieces would call almost every year to get the ingredients of how to put that dressing together. And for some reason, she got to a point where she constantly would call that niece's name. Until one day, I called the niece over the phone and had her to speak to her on voicemail, through voice on the phone. And Bernice and her talked. I was thinking that maybe after that she would, because I wanted them to come do on their own, not trying to beg and plead and stuff along that line. But she did that, and she was one of the ones put a apology note on her flower at the service for not really being there.
It's amazing how so many people say they love you and they care about you. When the need is there, they don't see.
No.
Yeah.
And you have to go through it to see it because
Yeah.
her family, a lot of family was here. And I'm thinking it would have been much easier from her side to get support and get help, but it didn't work out that way.
I
So
remember.
I decided I wasn't going to be angry. Because even taking care of her, it was amazing. Because when we came to battling those diabetes, Bernice was going to want and drink and eat what she wanted to drink and eat, knowing it was going to make her sugar go up after we don't dealt with strokes and all this kind of stuff. And I decided, I said, well, I'm not going to do like some people might do. I'm not going to be fussing with her. I'm not going to be arguing with her. I said, because I wanted to feel like if this is what she wants, and she has worked in the health environment with the DeKalb County Board of Health and all that, she know about some of this stuff. And if she's still going to do stuff that's going to be harmful, we don't went through these seminars and everything, them teaching us about it.
And guess what? Diabetes isn't what took her out of here. I just had.
No. I was wondering about the question you had. No, it wasn't. But see, the thing that happened over a period of time, she got to a point she was tired of checking her sugar herself, and she kept saying to me, "I get so sick and tired of sticking myself." And eventually, I told her I was kind of nervous about doing it, but I said, "Bernie, show me how to do it, and I'll do it for you." And she taught me how to stick her, get the blood, check the sugar levels. We had to do it morning and night. And when I got used to doing it, then what I did, I would verbally say what the numbers were. I wouldn't argue with her. So she knew when she don't ate and drunk stuff that don't set it up, and when we don't got it down. Until eventually she got to a point where she realized she got to get this sugar under control.
Yeah.
But it came with that, with her getting sick and tired of sticking herself.
But see, I'm diabetic, and I kind of eat and drink what I want, but I do it in moderation. I have been able to manage my sugar levels. I have been able to manage my A1C. But I had this conversation with a relative just a few days suggesting to me what I should eat, how I should change my eating habits.
Sometimes you don't really need that.
But my response to her was, I'll be 80 years old this year. It may be ignorance on my part. It may be that I'm not caring about my health or my body. That may be what people may think when they hear me say this. But I don't know how many more years God got for me. It may be 1, it may be 4, it may be 20 if I'm lucky. But my thing is, whatever He's got for me left, I'm going to enjoy every day of it. Because I just lost a man who didn't. And for me, I'm going to enjoy.
I decided I was not going to be fussing and arguing with her for all the time until she eventually decided to cooperate. And once she decided to cooperate, that worked out much better than me trying to force her to eat and drink.
You can't make anybody do anything.
And plus,
they have to want to do it.
That's what I worked on. I
They
waited until she was, and we were able to work it much better that way. We didn't know that soon we would be dealing with this.
Yeah, see, she probably got embarrassed with you telling her what the numbers were because the numbers were high.
And I kind of thought about that too.
She knew they should be lower.
We both knew they should have been lower.
But when you had to look at them, that's a whole different thing.
Because she wouldn't even verbalize what they were when she would check them, so I wouldn't know what they were. But I know she has drunk something or eaten something that she knew she didn't need to do. And then we had gone through strokes. She knew if them numbers got up too high, she was headed.
Yeah.
One time I left home, and it just so happened, my stepson, lady friend, and granddaughter was still there at the house. When I knew anything, they called me and tell me they don't have to call the paramedics and rush her to the hospital. I get there and they tell me she's threatening a massive stroke now.
Was that related to diabetes?
It was related to that. And we went with what they call ischemic stroke. That was the first one we dealt with. That was not too long after we got married. I was at work and they called me to tell me she don't got sick on the job. And she dealt with that. And then we dealt with another one. Then here we are threatening a major stroke.
Yeah, so it's time to make a change.
But still, that didn't change.
Yeah.
It just so happened that over a period of time, she ended up coming to a point of making a change. And when we made the change, And she was able to, because they even told us in the seminars, sometimes you can get your sugar down if you just drink enough of clear water.
Oh yeah.
Drink enough water. You ain't necessarily got to always do it with that medication. So, but she preferred uh, root beer.
Root beer.
She wanted root beer. She ain't want water. She would go drink. She wanted what she wanted. And so I said, okay. After knowing, and they don't told you, and I wouldn't even say that. If she tell me that's what she want, I just get it and bring it and put it there. And make sure like she like it chilled and cold. And put it there. And if you sit there and drink it, I didn't even go that. I'm saying it in a way I didn't do it. I treated it like she was doing what she was supposed to do. I just go and get it and put it there. And I'm like myself now, she want to drink this stuff, and no. My doctors had told me with the family history, I couldn't drink sodas and stuff, so I ended up leaving the bad boys alone. But she wanted what she wanted, and if she like her bowl of ice cream every now and then. And then if I get a couple of scoops, that ain't no joking ice cream. I want a bowl of ice cream. So I'm like, okay. I give it to her like because I'm figuring this is a grown woman who is knowledgeable. She has studied stuff and learned stuff in the health field. She knows what she's doing to herself. There's no need of me stressing myself out about it. Now, I would have felt real guilty if the diabetes is what took her out and I had given her some. But since we had gotten control of it, I don't have to live with the guilt of that. I live with the fact that she did what she wanted to do until she made up her mind that she would make changes. And when we made up our mind to make changes, she got it much better under control.
And that's all of us. When we have, it has to come from us.
I'm telling you, that's what I would advise anybody who's a caretaker. There's no need to fight with your loved ones when they don't have the will to do what is best for them. Yeah. Let them go on and enjoy it like you're doing now. If I was here caretaking for you and you don't told me that that's the way you feel, you think I'm a fuss and fight with you by doing the stuff you want to do? No, because you are an adult. And you will have more peace in the atmosphere until you make up your mind that this is not good for me.
Yeah. My husband had a vice, and I didn't.
I feel good about. I think that's the reason I don't have to live with so much guilt. Mm-hmm. Is because I allowed her to be an adult, going through what and knowing that she had knowledge about some of what she was dealing with. We both went through seminars for them to teach us how to manage it, and she knew that if she didn't manage it right, what could happen to her.
Now, Reverend Williams, grief is holy, but staying stuck in grief is not. Sitting in it long enough to honor it, but don't stay too long that you start calling the valley your home. Psalms 23 don't say I camp in the valley. It says that I walk through the valley. Do you think you have gone from grieving to believing, and are you still in the valley?
I believe that this is given by having 2 years experience and then seeing where I am now compared to where I was last year this time. I feel as though I've gotten better, but the way grief comes on you, I call them triggers.
I call them waves.
It can be different things that bothers you. Just like the experience of going to church and something being said in the sermon that triggers your thinking. And all of a sudden, people thinking you probably spiritually happy, but you are getting emotional because this has triggered something inside of you in a different way, but not necessarily from the standpoint I'm happy about just Jesus alone.
I've had that many times sitting.
So that's what I'm saying. So I can't say right now. I'm saying that's when I said like I did. I was running from the idea of possibly having to spend this past weekend with all the factors involved, with it being our anniversary, Easter, and dealing with that and knowing how she felt about a nice Easter meal and all that, and what we went into planning a nice Easter meal and focusing in on that. If Easter would have fell a little bit farther out, that part wouldn't have been such an impact. But it looked like both things was the same weekend, so it gave me a double whammy that I got to deal with.
Yeah.
But so I can't hardly say because certain stuff triggers you. This past Christmas, I could not believe how hard it was to listen to I'll Be Home for Christmas, as much as I like that song at Christmas. This was a terrible Christmas for me with that song. Every time I heard it, it got me. And then I was coming home I think it may have been I was coming home from something we had at Cornerstone, and it played. That's when I found out it. The first time I found out it affected me. I went to work, and by George, if it didn't come over the intercom at work, and I'm saying this song usually I like this song, but for some reason, this Christmas, every time I heard it, it got me emotional.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. So I am not at this point. I have been experiencing this long enough to know I can't say what the peak is. That's where I put it.
Now, grief never ends, but it changes. It's a passage, not a place to stay. Grief is not a sign of weakness, nor a lack of faith. It is the price we pay for. Reverend Williams, going through your grief journey, do you think it had an effect on your faith?
My faith?
Your faith.
My biggest challenge was being troubled with the fact, but yes and no. I thought that I needed to see God show me with my loved one that he could heal in a most difficult time, regardless of what the doctors were saying. And
you were relying on your faith.
I was relying on him to show me that he could do this regardless, because I had heard it, I know it, that man can say one thing and God, and I've seen him do it in the lives of people over the years when they don't basically gave up on a person and the person ended up getting back up and this type of thing. But I'm looking at the fact my wife was a strong believer and so was I. And with us praying and having both churches praying, I'm hoping and praying and trusting that God was going to lift her up and she'll be a testimony. One time we did so go well with the doctors that when they gave us a good report, we took all the officers a little gift because it looked like things were going in a good direction, to thank them for being there for us and stuff and that type of thing. We were doing that by faith. We were just trusting that God was getting ready to turn things around because of the good news we were getting. And still, it went the other way eventually.
Okay. So when it did go the other way, how did it affect your faith?
It didn't really affect my faith. It was just God's will. That's what I had to accept.
Okay.
That it's God's will. Not necessarily.
So your faith
I was more
was
disappointed.
still strong, and you realized that it was God's will.
It was God's will because I've seen it happen to other people.
Right.
And I'm no exception. You know, that's what I say. Well, if he chooses to work it out that I would get into another relationship that would be good for me for the rest of my life, that would be really a blessing. But if that does not occur, I am thankful for the fact that of the quality of life and relationship I had for the period of time that I had, that was a gift that he knew I needed to experience, and I'm thankful to him for the fact that he allowed me to experience that.
Amen. Amen.
That's a balance to my life, because I could have gone through the whole life of not having that kind of
her.
Yeah.
But thank you, Reverend Williams, for being a part of my podcast. I know you've said something that will touch on someone's heart and make them understand that grieving can take us to believing. You know, it's always a way to handle this. It's always a way to address it. It's just God's will. You know, we're going to have some grief, but we will get through.
We got to have ours because we sit and observe other people going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And sooner or later it's going to happen to us because some of our folk going to go. Yeah. One way or the whatever type of relationship is. If they don't go, it could be you going and you'll never experience it.
Yeah.
But if you live long enough, there's a great possibility some of them going to go. Yeah. That's close to you. And that's when it impacts you more because you think you get it when other people are experiencing it. But until you experience it yourself, you don't get it. You got to walk in those shoes and you will see it totally different.
Yeah. Thank you, my podcast family, for joining us and supporting us. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that button. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. And if you would love to be a part of this podcast and share your grief journey with us, you can reach me at chrisgreen7283@comcast.com. Thank you, and we'll see you the next time.